Good evening, Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. We're going to get right into it. The Knicks just signed Derrick Rose, 3 years, $43 million. Evan Fournier, maybe 4 years, $78 million. Not too sure. I think the exact figures are still out. Maybe the fourth year is an option. Maybe it's not. We got a lot to talk about. I think, what direction did we think the Knicks were going to go in free agency? And has this free agency met our expectations? I already know Josh is going to say no. And I already know Tony is going to say it's about right. So we about to get into it. We're going to bring everybody in and talk about it, So welcome, Sim. Josh, again, we just continuing what we've been doing, talking about what the Knicks did. And right before we got off Knicks and Bruises, they signed Fournier and they signed Derrick Rose. What do you two think about that?
Man, well, my first thought is, I think we expected Fournier, right? And I think we knew that the Knicks wanted to bring back Derrick Rose. But my first thought is, who's our starting point guard?
Right.
Do they believe that Derrick Rose is the starting point guard? I think that's the big question for me right now, because with the money that they spent on Evan Fournier and the money that they spent on Derrick Rose, I think that eats up all the cap. I think it eats up all the cap space.
Right.
So now, where do we go? The only other thing that I can see is that maybe there's going to be a trade in place. Somewhere along the line, maybe there's a trade for like a Colin Sexton, who will be your starting guard with Derrick Rose coming off the bench, and then they'll clean up some glut, maybe, clean up some glut. I don't know. It's hard to say. But if it remains the way that it is, and Derrick Rose is start point guard, and you're going into the season with Derrick Rose, Derrick Rose, R.J. Barrett, Evan Fournier, and Julius Randle and Mitch. I don't think that makes us a fourth seed, sixth, seventh, somewhere around there, baby. I don't think that makes us a fourth seed. And I don't know how much better we got. We go into the season with this team. I don't know how much better we got during this off season.
Right. Well, I'm gonna let Tony and Josh talk, because then we could talk about, since the roster seems to almost be filled out, how does this stack up against what we know the other teams have done? But if you guys want to say anything about Rose and Fournier.
I'm not mad at it. At this point, though, I think we really got to go grab Sexton up, and whatever it takes to get him. I think we have to make that move. I don't want Rose starting. I like the role he played last year. And even if he does start, ultimately he can't play 35 minutes. He won't last the season if we relying on him for 35 minutes a game.
Steph, you muted. I just want to. I'm shocked. I definitely didn't expect the Knicks to the front office to be this poor this free agency. I'm at a loss for words. First and foremost, Nerlens, Noel, Derrick Rose, Alec, Burks, those are three players I did not expect to be back with the team this year. Nerlens, Noel's contract, $10 million a year for a bench guy that can't score. To me, that's just a little bit too much. Derrick Rose, I would definitely welcome Derrick Rose back, but not as a starting point guard. And then Evan Fournier, 4 years, $20 million a year. That just throws everything out the window as far as the Knicks saving cap space for next couple seasons or whatever the case may be. Evan Fournier is going to be the third highest paid player on the team if you keep Randle around and go get another big fish. I'm definitely disappointed with this team right now.
I mean, on the plus side though, it's only gonna take Fournier and either Burks and or Noel's to match your salary for one of the big fish. And you know what I mean? So and those are reasonable deals, I think.
I mean, I get it. I mean, I understand Knicks fans have no choice but to be optimistic right now. Like, I can just hear that song playing in the background. As long as you keep your hand to the, yeah, this is not good. I'm sorry. This is awful.
I mean, I'm a little disappointed overall as well. I was definitely expecting something different. I'm wondering if the Knicks, who we thought they were going after, I wonder if they were even on their board. Norman Powell, DeRozan, Oubre. You know, somebody said that maybe they have I think it was the caller. You know, we have a new front office. They're into the analytics. What's the value of this player for this amount of money? And if it doesn't match up, they're not going for it. That's the only thing I could think about. Because right now, other than Fournier, this is the same team. And you can argue maybe even not as good because we don't have, we don't have a point guard. You're going to put Rose right now at the starting point guard. Who's backing him up? A rookie in McBride, Quickly, who's a shooting guard. So the Knicks might be in the play-in. Now, I'm for sure, I didn't want them. I would not have paid those other guys what they played them, but there were still other players on the board. And the only thing I can think of is either they didn't want to come to the Knicks or the Knicks didn't have them on their board. Any thoughts about where we are now in the Eastern Conference, given what we did or didn't do and what the other teams have done?
To me, I don't see us being. I don't see us being in the 4th seed. Right now, I guess the question is: does Evan Fournier? What did he average last year?
I got it.
17
a game. 17 a game. Does what he brings, does his offense help to unlock some of the things that the Knicks would want to do on the offense, right? Because he can do more than Reggie Bullock. He can put the ball on the floor a little better. He can come off screens. He can knock it down. He can catch and shoot. He can maybe even facilitate a little bit. So does what Evan Fournier gives the Knicks, does it open up the offense a little bit more?
I think it does. Let's look at the splits, though, because remember in Orlando, he was one of the main options. In Boston, he was one of many, which is what he'll be with the Knicks. It was just 13 games. He played 30 minutes, which was pretty similar to what he played in Orlando, but he shot better, 44.8% from the field, shot better from three, 46.3%. That is, if he can even get close to that, we're going to be all right. 3.3 rebounds, 3.1 assists, which is somewhat, what he did in Orlando. 1.2 steals and 0.6 blocks. So he may not be a lockdown defender. He may not be an on-ball defender, but 1.2 steals. I mean, he's active. I don't think he's standing out there like a turnstile, right? I think he's going to give some effort. So I think that is an upgrade over Bullock, and I believe he's 6'7". Yeah, he's 6'7". So he could play. He could play the 3. That being said, Miami got better. I think Indiana's going to be better because Rick Carlisle is there. So even if they don't make any moves, I just think he's going to get more out of the roster than the first coach got. Who else may have gotten better?
Chicago.
Yeah. Chicago gotten better. Got better. Yeah, they definitely got better. Do you think they're better than their roster? Probably. I think for them it's more about chemistry with Vucevic and Levine and Ball, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Knicks.
I guess my question is, are the Knicks done? I think that's the big thing right there. Are the Knicks done? You know what I mean? Because if they're not done, then, you know, maybe they're still able to shape the roster a little bit. Because when I look at the potential second unit, McBride at point guard. Emmanuel Quickly's going to be in there somewhere unless he's going away in a trade. Right? So you got McBride and Emmanuel Quickly. And then you have Alec Burks. Where does Quentin Grimes fit? If you got Alec Burks, because you got Obi at the 4, Nerlens Noel at the 5. Where does Quentin Grimes fit in? I mean, I don't think they're paying him, you know, as a first round pick to not play him any minutes. You know, so does he take Emmanuel Quickly's minutes, and does, you know, so I think there's maybe a little bit of a glut in that second unit, which could possibly be resolved by a trade. So maybe, you know, maybe there will be some kind of a trade happening going forward that cleans up a little bit of that glut.
And
Yeah, I think
know
so.
you guys probably won't like this, but I think Fournier can. I think his ball handle is good enough to run the point. I think we relied on Julius enough to facilitate to where he won't be the primary facilitator, but he can facilitate. I think he could guard the one position as well. So that might be an option. I still don't know where we fill the void if he's at the 1 and RJ's at the 2, who's starting at the 3. I don't know what we do in that aspect, but you know, No, I'm saying.
Oh, and Fournier plays the point guard. Yeah.
I don't know what we do there, but I still think he could see some minutes at the 1. If we seen Alec Burke at the 1, we could see Fournier at the 1, and I think he'd be a little bit better, a little bit cleaner.
But to me, it just doesn't solve the problem that we've been complaining about for the past few years. We need a point guard. We need a point guard. We need a point guard.
Right.
We have all the money to go out and get a point guard, and for some reason we can't do it. One reason or another. And I'm not saying the Knicks front office didn't put their due diligence out there and put their best foot forward, but I mean, the number one need that this team has needed for a long time, and we have the money, finally have the money to do it, and we just bring back Derrick Rose, who's not a starter. I mean, just makes you scratch your head and wonder.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I think that if Fournier is playing the 1 position, the Knicks are in trouble. And I get you, Tony. He can play it. He can play it. He's a facilitator. He definitely can. But if that's who we rolling out as the starting point guard on the team,
I just meant sharing some time. I definitely didn't mean full-time starter.
Okay.
And if that was the route, we wouldn't have we probably couldn't have paid Derrick Rose because we would have had to spend that money on that 3 position. But I mean, I'm trying to be as optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, right something like Sim said, something else has to be coming down the pike. It just doesn't make sense. And you don't fill out the back part of your roster before you fill out the front part of your back part of your team before you fill out the front part of your team. So I think a sign and trade is coming, and I just think,
and like you're saying, Steph, you don't fill out the back part before you fill out the front part. The only time, I don't want to say the only time, most of the time when you see teams fill out the back part before they fill out the front part, those back part players are being included in a trade somewhere down the line. Take a look at what's his name? I can't even think of his name now.
Which team is it?
Miami. Just
Lowry,
right.
Robinson,
right? So, and did they trade what's it called along with him?
Akua.
But no, the other point guard, overseas guy, white guy.
Dragic.
Dragic. Right. They picked up Dragic. they picked up his option. And then, that's when, probably where, I don't want to say where it started, but they knew that maybe Dragic was going to be, I don't remember if he was included in the trade or not. But, they picked up this option so that they would have that option available to trade him if necessary, and maybe the same type of things are happening now with the New York Knicks. It's hard to say. I don't know.
Yeah, that trade isn't finalized yet. The money isn't quite finalized, nor the players.
Right.
Oh man, I mean, at this point, I'll say it again. I think we got to go for Sexton. We got, and whatever it costs. If it costs us one of ours and the 2 restricted, I think we got to do it.
Okay, but even Sexton, Fournier, RJ, Randall, Mitch. Where do we finish in the East?
I think we finished right where we were supposed to finish last year, somewhere around the 6th seed, or maybe 7th seed. But I'm hoping, obviously, I want to avoid the play-in. So I say 7th or 6th or 7th seed. I mean, unless we overachieve, unless we put it all together again. And if that's the case, we really gonna have to start putting some respect on Thibodeau's name, because he's got another tall task ahead of him.
I don't want to count the Knicks out, and I'm pretty sure I did last season. I counted them out when I looked at the roster, and they didn't make any significant upgrades. I definitely counted them out, and I was proven wrong, just like a lot of people. And I don't want to count them out right now, but you can't. I mean, all this time we've been hearing about the Knicks having all this money, and we got all this cap space to do this and do that, and for us to come out and do this, it just doesn't make sense to me. Even if, let's say if Evan Fournier was a stopgap, sign him for a couple years and then we'll move on. But sign him for 4 years and have $20 million tied to him for the next 4 years.
3.
To me, that's just counterproductive on all the stuff that we've been hearing about the Knicks saving for the free agency class
It's
year.
3 years. It's not 4 years. It's 3 years. They have a team option in the 4th year where if it's not working, they can
not pick it up.
They cannot pick it up.
Yeah. Sam, any updates?
I guess that makes it sound better.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
I mean.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is, you're saying that they committed to him for 4 years. They really haven't. They have a 4th year where they can choose, do they want to take his contract or not? It sounds like the Knicks are giving themselves a 3-year window to elevate themselves in the Eastern Conference. They signed Nerlens Noel for 3 years. They signed Alec Burks for 3 years. And now you're looking at Evan Fournier for 3 years. And then there's a team option in the 4th year. And that was probably just because he wanted that team option. His people wanted that option in there so that it's a 4-year deal, right?
Right.
So it sounds like to me, the Knicks are giving themselves, hey, we have this 3-year window to build our team. That's what it seems like to me. Right? Why else would they give everybody a 3-year deal?
And to me, I'm like... I know I'm always like the optimistic one, but I'm gonna continue with it because you've seen what we did last year, and now they're saying let's grow from it. Let's let's build this camaraderie and grow from it. Now, is it gonna work? It's yet to be seen, but you can't be mad at the that being the option. And it's not like we signed any of these guys on a contract that's like, oh, ain't nobody gonna want to take this contract from us. You know what I mean? I think those are very movable contracts, every single one of them. So
I think they overpaid, and maybe because it was 3 years, maybe they could have got more elsewhere. Maybe that's why. I'm not.
You think Burks was overpaid too?
I think Burks was overpaid too. No, I think Noel was overpaid for the Knicks. I mean, I think maybe they could have got that from other teams. I think they should have went to other teams. And I don't think the Knicks went into this offseason saying we're going to bring it back. I think the Knicks didn't have, that was their second option because they weren't able to sign the players that they really wanted to sign. So they had to bring them back.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't think that they went into this offseason saying, yeah, we're definitely gonna bring back Burks and Nerlens Noel. I do have a question though with Nerlens Noel. The Knicks picked up Mitchell Robinson's option at 1.8. They signed Nerlens Noel for 10. Do you think Mitchell Robinson could be on the move in a potential trade? At any point during this offseason?
I've always felt like that was a possibility, even dating back to last year, because he was one of the Knicks' most valuable assets as far as players are concerned. And his deal is definitely something that another team would take on and then bet on themselves that Mitchell Robinson will work out for them. So I think by picking up his option, absolutely, and that will make the most sense for the Knicks to do. To be honest, at this point, I want the Knicks to bring in talent so bad I'm willing to trade Mitchell Robinson and bring in someone else.
Sexton.
Yeah.
That would need to be a 3-team trade, right? They got Mobley, they got Jared Allen.
Yeah.
I think Mobley's gonna play the 4 though. I think they want Mobley and Jared on the floor together.
Yeah, but that's no room for Mitch in that.
It does it as a backup. I mean, I don't think it's far-fetched for Mitch to be a backup this year. He started most of the year, but again, Noel's held down the fort, and I think Mitch would probably thrive better with the younger guys. Like their game fits him a little bit better as far as the running.
Running with us or with Cleveland?
No, with us, with the second unit, I think Mitch could probably thrive more with the second unit than even starting. I think Noel showed us he could start on his team. You know what I mean?
You real high on Noel. Wow.
I'm high on what he showed us. Like my eyes, I can't erase what I saw. I wasn't high coming into the situation. I was worried. I think I was one of the most worried when Mitch went down both times. But he literally saved us.
He did, Tony. But I think we got to look at his play the entire season. He's rail thin. He's injury. He missed games due to injury as well. He's not a great rebounder. He doesn't catch the ball. He's a good rim protector, and I will give him that. But you got a center already. He's not going to be in the post generating points that way. He's not going to generate points off the offensive rebounds. He's not going to generate points when you draw the defense and pass it to him because he can't catch the ball. So we're not really getting much points out of Noel. 6 rebounds, maybe 2 blocks a game. I think he's a backup. I think he's a backup.
You know what the difference is for me though? If we were replacing somebody that gave us all those things that we lacked from him, and then we were bringing him in, then I could see that argument. But he had those same deficiencies last year, and
correct.
And we couldn't like he helped. He didn't hurt us. He helped us way more than he hurt us with those deficiencies.
Okay.
The only time I could see that he hurt us
still remain
was that one series in the playoffs. And Josh, I'm not going to hold him accountable for one playoff series. You know what I mean? Like, come back and get better. He had a better playoff series last year or the year before in OKC. Phenomenal playoff series. Where in that aspect, I don't think his season was as good as his playoff series. This year, his season was a lot better than his one playoff series. I mean,
but he's a backup though. He's a backup. I'm not starting. You could tell Mitch came back for 2 games. It was like a breath of fresh air. He got offensive rebounds. The alley-oop was back in play. He was able to catch the ball. Mitch is better. In my opinion, Mitch is better.
I agree, but I think Noel is better suited with our starting unit, and Mitch, like Noel didn't play as well coming off the bench as he did starting. Would you agree with that?
Who didn't play as well?
Noel played better as a starter than he did off the bench.
I mean, it could have been that a fire was lit under him because he knew the team, the team needed him to step it up. That could have been it. As well, he's pencil thin. We played some centers you couldn't even see him. I'm not. I appreciate what he did. Don't get me wrong, but that playoff series, and not even before the playoff series, I don't know. Maybe he was injured, but even the games leading up to the playoff series, he just wasn't the same. And he could have, he could have been injured. I just think that money could have been better spent. I'm not saying I don't value him. I just think the money could have been better spent.
I agree. I mean, if we could have got Dwight for that money, which we probably could have, I would have preferred that.
For less.
I don't know if he would have took less to come to us.
Why not?
I just don't know if he would have.
Because I think he wanted to try to win that championship.
Him taking less to go back to the Lakers or to play on a contender. I don't know if he would have took that same salary for us. Maybe he would have, and I wouldn't have been mad at that at all. But we got who we got,
I mean, we got it.
I gotta shoot him a little bit of bail.
Okay. Alec, I'm sorry.
I think we said coming into the offseason or prior to the playoffs, I think we were talking about him getting more than that from another team. 15 million, 20 million, Noel's and us saying we're not 20, not from us. But I remember it being a conversation like we're not paying him 15 or 20 million. I remember, and we didn't. We got him for less than that. So that's all I want to say.
So, can I jump in here, Steph?
Yeah, of course.
I was just looking at the roster of players we are committed to at the moment. Okay. So we have Rose, RJ, Fournier, Randall, and Mitch. Potentially, probably the starting five at the moment.
Right.
Then off the bench, you got McBride, Quickly, Burks, Obi, and Nerlens Noel. And then your third string squad at the moment is Luka Vildoza, Quentin Grimes, Kevin Knox, Jericho Sims. And we still have a roster spot available. Okay. That's the roster at the moment. That is a total of 14 players. I don't think it's out the question that they have that roster spot available so that they can make a move.
Right.
I don't know how much money they have left in free agency to be able to, maybe they still sign Melo. There could be a spot there. Jericho Sims is a 5. Kevin Knox is a 3/4. Grimes is a 2. Luka Vildoza is a point guard. Right, and looking at that, I'm looking at that last group, and then you can add Carmelo Anthony in there at the 3/4 spot, and of course Melo would probably play. You might be switching out Obi and Melo, right? Yeah. Melo might be playing the 4 spot in the second unit, while Obi is, getting situational minutes off the bench or in the third unit. My question is, if I know Tony in the last show on Knicks and Bruises was asking, well, what about Melo? Does he consider coming to the Knicks with this roster? Or does he look more towards Los Angeles?
That is a great question.
I think LA is getting more and more out of the question for him. And again, I'll reiterate it. If we get Sexton and bring Melo, I'm not mad with this. I'm not mad with this team. I think we could go to war with that team. Melo being in that second unit, pushing Rose back to the second unit, and starting Sexton. I think that's an upgrade from last year. 100%.
But that's the big question, though, Tone. Right now, the Knicks seem to be cap strapped, and we haven't addressed the biggest need that we needed to address. That's my point. And a trade is not guaranteed, like we've been saying. So there's no guarantee the Knicks are going to make the trade for Sexton. I mean, we want them to. They're going to have to. And I agree with you. The team will be. I would feel much better about the team if they had the point guard spot filled. But as of right now, they don't. Even adding Melo, I would be happy about that. But
we need that point guard.
We ain't got no point guard, and we just spent $53 million on non-point guards.
Right. Yeah. Caruso agreed to a 4-year, $37 million deal with the Chicago Bulls. That was one point guard we could.
That's a lot. That's a lot of guards.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
move Kobe.
Well, you know, the Bulls were actually looking to bring in Rose to back up Lonzo Ball. Really, Derrick Rose is signing with the New York Knicks.
right.
You know, so I guess they wanted another guard. I don't know. Maybe they will be looking to move Kobe.
I mean, I take him too, but he's not a facilitator. He a bucket.
Right. Corey Joseph agreed to a deal with the Detroit Pistons, 2 years, $10 million.
I wouldn't have been mad at that either.
And they're saying that there's not a lot of teams with cap space to sign DeRozan unless it's a sign and trade.
Right. And that's another thing. That's another thing that isn't out of the question. Those sign and trades. If maybe the Knicks could still be in conversations with a point guard and players that they signed because they're under the cap, players that they signed today or will, sign August 6th or whenever the date is, will be used in a sign and trade. That's not out of the question. It's not out of the question whatsoever. Who? I don't know. I doubt it would be Evan Fournier. Right? I doubt it would be Derrick Rose. Right. So the only other person would be Nerlens Noel or Alec Burks. So if one of those teams had interest in a Nerlens Noel or Alec Burks, the Knicks say had interest in Dennis Schroeder and whichever team, who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think the Knicks San Antonio would be interested in a sign and trade with the Knicks for DeRozan? I don't really see anybody on our roster that they would be interested in.
Right.
Besides Frank, it'd be a double sign and trade.
Unless they would be interested in Alec Burks. If DeMar DeRozan, they knew DeMar DeRozan wasn't coming back and they wanted, an affordable guard to replace DeMar DeRozan.
Right.
But then they might, depending on how much DeMar DeRozan made, they would have to take back Burks and Nerlens Noel. Or I guess it could be other players too. I don't know. But then in that case, why do the sign and trade? They could have just signed them themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So if a sign and trade is happening, it would have to be with a team that didn't have the ability to sign certain players.
Right.
Right. So.
Right. So what do you think about the point? I think we talked about on Knicks and Bruises. I'm not sure if you were on the panel. My concern that the Knicks may not be, at least yet, that team that players want to come to. Lowry, I don't know how much he even considered the Knicks. Conley, a lot of them wanted to go back to their situation. I definitely understand that. But that was one of the things that we talked about. Like, the Knicks are going to start winning. Free agents are going to want to sign here.
It still could be the case that, the players are maybe just not sure yet. Was it a one season type of deal? They were, you're good for one season. Okay, you had a good season, right? Or is it real? And that could very well be the case. I feel like Leon Rose and William Wesley and those guys have a lot of connections and are able to use those connections, but still players got to feel comfortable coming to New York. And there's other things outside of just being in New York. There's taxes and all these other things that factor into it when it comes to being in New York. And then of course the media and the fans. You know what I'm saying? They seen the way we treated Elfrid Payton.
They see the way we treated Randall a year prior.
Yeah, they see that stuff.
Hey, I'll say this. I said it earlier. It would have been hard. Like, if we would have played better in the playoffs, if Randall would have showed up, if RJ would have showed up, if one of these 6 guys that were on our roster coming into this free agency would have balled out, or 2 of them would have balled out, I think that would have changed things. But you think about it, we got 6 players under the roster. None of those 6 guys really showed up in that prime moment. So it's hard to say, oh, all right, let's go join them and build on it. And that's another reason why I feel like, hopefully, long shot, but hopefully we make the playoffs, win a series. Now it's 2 years in a row. Now it's 2 years in a row with the same core. RJ's going to have to show up, though. Randall's going to have to show up. And then the guys will want to play. I don't, come play with them. But right now, why would you take that risk knowing these 2 guys specifically didn't necessarily show up in the playoffs? You know what I mean? So yeah. I think they gotta earn it. Another thing I feel like we're probably leaning towards RJ being the guy to bring somebody in more so than Randall. I mean, I don't really know what relationships Randall has throughout the league other than his Laker relationships, and that obviously didn't work for us because he didn't get Alonzo here, and I thought maybe that could have been a relationship that brought somebody in. But RJ, I know, has relationships throughout the league. He has relationships from his country. He got relationships from Duke. He got relationships from from all over, that I think he'll be the guy that conspires with somebody to come to New York before a Julius Randle per se.
So I just want to address, so the Knicks spent $19 million on Fournier, and they spent 10 on Burks, 10 on Noel. Yet there was players out there that can easily make $30 million. That make $30 million per season. And we were a lot of us were saying, I don't want to sign those guys because I don't want to pay them that money. And I know, this is kind of hindsight now, and, the moves have already been made. But I promise you, I would pay Chris Paul $30 million rather than Fournier and Noel combined. Because Chris Paul takes us to the next level. But Fournier at $19 million plus Noel, for $30 million, we spent our cap space on that instead of going after a point guard that can take us to the next level. That's why you pay guys like Chris Paul, like Kyle Lowry, $30 million, because they get you to the next level.
Well, the thing,
they weren't available to us, Josh.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't want
Phoenix. He didn't want. You think he was going to leave Phoenix to come to a Knicks team with 6 players? He wasn't leaving the Knicks.
And that's my point.
He wasn't leaving Phoenix, so he wasn't an option for us. It's not like they were in a battle, but with Chris Paul and we lost. He wasn't available to us, and neither was Lowry.
I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is this notion that, I don't want to pay that player because he makes too much money or he's worth too much money. I just don't agree with that. That's what I'm saying.
Right. But
I feel what you're saying as far as not being available, but
right. But you keep saying the same thing. We agree with you. Nobody is saying that we shouldn't play a player $30 million. Nobody is saying that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we're getting on the Knicks for players that weren't available to us. Chris Paul wasn't available. Lowry was available. He did not want to come here. How are you going to get on the Knicks for that? He wanted to go to Miami. Now, if you want to you want to get on the Knicks in terms of our image, you want to get on the Knicks for other things while we're not attractive, I get it. But Lowry wanted to go to Miami and he wanted to play with Butler. He did not see us as attractive. The Knicks didn't fail in that regard. They didn't want to be here.
They didn't
want to be
They didn't
here.
want to be here. I mean,
What are you going to do about that?
And I can't blame them, because even signing them, they were coming into an unknown.
right.
You know what I mean? Like it was unknown if Randall was gonna step up come next playoff series. If RJ, it's still unknown. I think these guys are gonna have to prove it. They're gonna have to prove it to the league.
So in that case, if those players are questioning what the Knicks did last season, shouldn't we do the same thing?
I mean, I'm one that say we overachieved. I think we should have been a 7.
Like, if we want to talk about the foundation that the Knicks built, and we were so high on this foundation, and the Knicks having all this money and all this, draft picks, and they have a foundation, how come other players in the NBA don't see that? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's the question. But that's the question I just asked. That they don't see the Knicks right now as a destination.
And this is also why I feel like we would have been better off as a 6th or 7th seed last year, and have that more room for growth. Because now, like I said a couple of shows ago, we're gonna regress. What, you know what I mean? Whether it's acknowledged or not, we're not gonna be as good as we were last year, standings wise. We might have the same record and not be as good standings wise. You know what I mean? But it would have been better if we maybe didn't have that first round home court advantage. It would have been less of a thing if we lost the first round as a road team. It's still a work in progress. We skipped a step, and now we're gonna have to balance out this year, and maybe get better than where we should have been, but not quite where we was last year.
I don't think it's going to happen with this roster.
I mean, we
we
didn't think it was last year.
And we can improve the roster because players don't want to come and we don't want to trade for anybody. So
I don't think we
what
don't want to
exactly are
trade
we-
for it. Josh, why do you keep saying that? Why do you keep saying that? Like, we don't want to sign people. We don't want to trade.
No. Trade.
We do. They have to be a willing trade partner.
Right. And players got to want to come here. Like, they got to look and say, yes, I want to sign to the. How do you know that Leon Rose didn't reach out to Chris Paul every single night over the past 2 weeks and say, I want you here. I want you here. I want you here. I want you. How do you know that?
I'm not saying that. I guess what I'm saying, I'm not saying that the Knicks front office didn't put their front foot forward, but I just struggle to believe that 29 other teams in the NBA and all these other teams in the Eastern Conference, like the Miamis and Chicago, are able to make trades and make deals happen, and we just sit on our hands every
We're
single
not sitting
year.
on our hands. We didn't want Ball. We didn't want him.
But and also you look at, you talk about Chicago making moves. How did their move work out for them last year? Nothing.
You talking about Vucevic?
Yes.
Zach LaVine.
I'm talking about Vucevic. What did it
Make
do
the
for
playoffs.
them? Did it elevate them into the playoffs? They got worse.
Do you think they're gonna be worse this season?
I don't know. We don't know.
Exactly. They're not gonna be worse, and they got a new coach. They're gonna
We
be
don't
better.
know. I mean, they got a new coach. They got new players. They got Lonzo Ball. But what did that trade do for them? What did Victor Oladipo do in Miami? Is he going back to Miami?
What did the Knicks do?
No, answer my question. What did Victor Oladipo do to Miami? Because you were all upset that the Knicks didn't trade for Victor Oladipo. What did he do? He got hurt and didn't play.
Sam, but you act like none of these players couldn't help us. These players could have definitely helped us in the playoffs.
What I'm saying, what I'm saying to
Just
you.
because they perform one way on one team doesn't mean it's going to be the same way for us. That should not shy us away from going after talent.
No, what I'm saying
We're
to
not
you is,
shying away.
yeah, the Knicks are not shying away. They're just, picking and choosing who they want. I'm sure they've spoken to people. They probably
I'm not
reached
saying that
out
they
to
didn't,
Kyle
Sam.
Lowry.
But
You keep
then
saying
what's
that
the
they're shying
argument
away
then?
from. Yeah, what is the argument? You keep saying they're
If
shying
they
away
did,
from Kyle.
Argument,
what's
okay,
the argument?
I'll tell you what the argument is. The argument is for the past 4 or 5 seasons, the Knicks traded away and they gave us this image that they wanted to save up this cap space for this free agent year and all these other free agent years. And then that trade deadline, they don't want to make any moves. They want to stay. And then when the time comes for us to play in the playoffs, we don't have anybody. We don't have any talent, and we need to upgrade the roster. Yet we can't upgrade the roster because we don't want to make any moves. That's what I'm saying.
But that's the logic part that's not clicking. It's not that they don't want to make moves. There isn't moves to be made. Paul didn't want to come here. Lowry didn't want to come
At the
here.
trade deadline, you telling me there was no moves for the Knicks to make?
Which move you wanted them to make? I think I wanted them to make the Oladipo move. I'm glad they didn't.
Okay, the Oladipo move was there. We could have got Fournier at the trade deadline to help this roster.
We got Fournier now without giving up assets.
And now it's a problem.
They got him now without giving up assets. So,
But I'm saying I wanted Fournier
What
to
are
be
you
an
talking
addition to the team last year, not
he is.
you know.
We would have had
He is an addition to the team last year.
We don't have Reggie Bullock anymore, Sam. We don't have him anymore.
Evan
That's what I'm saying.
Evan Fournier would have probably taken Reggie Bullock's minutes last year. He would have took Reggie Bullock's or Alec Burks' minutes last year if they would have traded. Or Reggie Bullock would have went in the trade. Something like that, because you wasn't going to play all 3 of them.
Hey, Josh, man, just stick to your argument that we need a point guard, because we all agree on that.
Right, because the way you're making it seem like, and anyway, when you build up cap space, you build up cap space for flexibility and to take advantage of things that come your way. Just because you build up cap space doesn't mean you have to use it if there's nobody to use it on.
That's the part I struggle with. That's the part that I struggle with. There's a lot of players out there.
Who do you think we should have signed in this free agency? Who would you have wanted to use the cap space? Because you talk in abstract terms.
No,
let's be specific.
No, but what I'm saying is, if I say a player that sounds
Pacific.
Hold on, wait a minute. What I'm saying is, if I throw a player's name out there and he signed with another team, you're gonna say, "Oh, that player didn't want to sign with us anyway." I just don't believe that's the answer for every player that's not on the Knicks.
Not for every player, but for Paul, it is.
Okay, Chris Paul, it is. You can say the same for Kyle Lowry.
It was.
DeMar DeRozan is still out there. We could have got him.
Well,
he hasn't signed with anybody
but
yet.
they got Evan Fournier, so that's repeating.
But I'm saying, but we could have signed DeMar DeRozan. He makes a bigger difference than Evan Fournier for 3 years.
How do you know?
Josh,
How do you know?
I agree with you, but I guarantee you, if we signed DeRozan, it'd be another guy, not Josh, but playing the same Josh role right now, because we have DeRozan and having that same argument. So, but I think everybody on this channel right now agrees we would have taken DeRozan over Fournier. Like,
No question. I would take DeRozan.
Hold on.
I would take DeRozan over Fournier and Nerlens Noel put together.
Actually, I'm not a fan of DeMar DeRozan, and I actually think Evan Fournier fits better than DeMar DeRozan. That's just me. I do. I think he fits better. I think that because he can shoot the 3 ball, it's a better fit for the New York Knicks, because they need somebody who can shoot the 3. We don't need another guy in the lineup that can't shoot the 3, which is, you got Mitchell Robinson in the lineup already that can't shoot the 3. We needed a guy that can shoot the 3. We need a guy. DeMar DeRozan is a like a Paul George light or something like that. You're gonna get him the ball, let him isolate. He has learned how to facilitate better. Right, but I feel like we needed a guy that can come off screens, grab the ball, pull up, knock it down. Guy that can catch and shoot. Right, I feel like we needed that flank. I feel like
it was that last season, and we lost him, and we got.
But Evan Fournier can facilitate some. He's better than Bullock, and he can facilitate a little bit better than Bullock. And he's more of a flamethrower than Bullock is.
And he can put the ball on the ground.
And he can put the ball on the floor, which Bullock cannot do. So that's why
the offense is going to be more fluid.
Yeah, more fluid. That's why I think he's a better fit than DeMar DeRozan.
Again,
as a
Josh,
matter of fact,
the only problem we have is we didn't get a point guard as of yet.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the Knicks, if you pay attention, they're going with the style that they wanted to go with last season. Last season, you remember they wanted Gordon Hayward, right? But then they refused to give Gordon Hayward the amount of money that he wanted and for the number of years and all that kind of stuff. Evan Fournier kind of fits and does what Gordon Hayward does. You know that style of basketball. So maybe they do have a picture in mind. Am I happy with what we did in this offseason so far? No, because we got to have a point guard. But I still do think that Evan Fournier is a better fit than DeMar DeRozan.
Thanks.
Let
me get to a few of these super chats. Right. Shout out to 1975 Jamrock. Objectively, have we improved our team from last year? I think we have. If you include the draft picks, if you include Fournier, I think we're a better team than we were last year. Now, a lot of our success last year was built on chemistry. Will this team have that same type of chemistry? That remains to be seen. All right. There's a few more here. Shout out to Iron Clock. Good night, Josh. Time to go to bed. Shout out to Justin Hernandez. Did we even try to talk to Dennis Schroeder? I think that the narrative out there is the Knicks are not even trying. And lastly, I think there was one more. Jay St. John, thank you for the super chat. Players don't like Dolan, plain and simple. KD said it last year also. Doesn't matter who Dolan hires. Stop trying to get your hopes up on big name free agents.
I agree with that, but that narrative is played out now. But whatever.
I mean, the one thing someone asked about Dennis Schroeder, did the Knicks even try to talk to Dennis Schroeder? Now, first of all, he might be out of the Knicks price range, from the money that he was asking for. We were talking about that last night or the other night, whenever it was. He might be out of the Knicks price range. But now, he hasn't been signed yet. And, who knows what could happen as far as, with what goes on with DeMar DeRozan and how things work out. Who knows? Remember, right now, the Knicks are in a moratorium. Remember what happened last year. Not last year, 2 years ago with Marcus Morris. Right? As a matter of fact, it happened with Reggie Bullock and Marcus Morris. Marcus Morris was signed to the Clippers?
The Spurs.
The Spurs. He was signed with the Spurs. And then Reggie Bullock had an issue with his back. Some money opened up and he signed with the Knicks for $15 million. Am I saying that's going to happen? No. But that's the reason why you have that moratorium period.
Right.
And things can happen. Things can move around and happen within that moratorium period.
Right. Let me read one more super chat. El Marshall, appreciate you. Rose, Quickly, McBride by committee can work. McBride and Quickly are X factors. I mean, I think the rookies you got to go ahead, Sam.
But Rose is kind of an X factor too. Like if Rose's body could hold up, then I could look and say, okay, we got to start a point guard. I just don't think his body can hold up.
Right.
Do you think, Steph? Do you think that Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau are looking at him and saying he's our starting point guard without a doubt?
I don't think so. That's why I think something else is coming down the pike. And I gotta be honest, I don't think any of us, when we did our roster construction, had Rose coming back.
No, I didn't.
I didn't have him coming back either, because I think even at 25 minutes, there's still the risk that he's going to get hurt. It's still the risk that he's going to miss games. So no, I don't think they have him as the starter. But I wish I knew what they were thinking or who they have in mind as the starter. You have to think something else is coming down the pike.
And if it isn't, then that goes to what I'm saying about this team just sitting on his hands. It has to.
I don't think there's
I'm not even going to get into that.
I can't agree with that with this front office. I can't agree with that
Yeah,
with
but-
the front office.
If you want to say
can't
they
tell-
didn't get results,
Yeah,
Getting results
struck
is
out
different than
or
not- than
something
sitting
of that
on your-
matter.
yeah.
Right.
But I can't believe that they just didn't do their due diligence, didn't
Right.
attempt to make some moves, didn't like for God's sakes. Leon Rose was Chris Paul's agent. They talked, they spoke. He knew if there was an inkling of Chris Paul coming, he knew about it prior to.
Right.
And I think there was. And when that changed, I think he was made aware as well.
All right. Because Josh, you make it sound like, Chris Paul sitting there saying, "Hey, Leon, what's up? We're going to talk tonight? Hey, Leon, we're going to talk." And Leon Rose is like, "Man, I don't feel like talking to this guy right now. I don't feel like talking to Chris Paul right now."
right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the way you make it sound sometimes.
Okay, maybe if I make it sound that way, I'm sorry. I honestly don't know what the Knicks are trying to do. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But to me, something just does not add up. You save up all the cap space for all this amount of years, and you sign these stopgap guys, and then at trade deadlines, you don't want to make any moves because you want to keep camaraderie.
I don't think they got now. They played them three. They signed them for 3 years. So unless they trade them, they're gonna be here. I agree. I'm not happy with what happened, but I think they struck out. I don't think it's for lack of effort. I don't think it's for any of that. I just think they struck out. I'm sure they had a plan A, B, and C, and they weren't able to execute. Two parties have to agree. You can't just sign who you want to sign. They have to, the free agent have to agree, and if it's a trade, the team has to agree.
So in that case, this will be the third year in a row that the Knicks have struck out in free agency.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. What is going on with the Knicks image that the players don't want to come here? Because I don't think it's lack of trying.
To me, I'm just tired of depending on the free agent market. I want the team to go out and be aggressive in their trade and go after a big fish. Because what's the point of holding on to all this cap space if you're gonna, if you're not gonna use it to the best of our ability?
So, Josh, a team has to be a willing trade partner. So you're just gonna go to Minnesota and rip Cat off the team? You know what I mean?
Steph.
I mean, like, what are you gonna? A player has to be available.
Steph, what I'm saying is, if the Knicks have all this cap space and all of these draft picks, how are they valuable if they can't use them? They're valuable.
You need Josh, we on the same page, but you need a team that has a player that they want to trade.
Two things. As far as the Knicks being a preferred destination, it's 3 years in a row we struck out, but this is only the first year that we had an inkling of some success. So, seems players probably want to see the direction overall. You can't make that move off of one playoff appearance and then a bad one at that, and then come, like I said earlier, with 6 players on your roster. It's very difficult to do that. If players were thinking about teaming up prior to, then maybe New York would have been a more prime destination. I think if we have success again, we'll be more likely to not strike out next time. And then as far as the players that we sign and the contracts that we have, those are easier to move in a blockbuster trade. It's a lot harder when you have a bunch of guys making $6 million, $6 million, $6 million. Now you're talking about giving up 5 players for one. Where now we're in a position to give up 2 players and picks for one. So we're still in a prime position to bring somebody in. We're just now it has to be a trade. But we have the assets and the players to fit those salaries up with 2 guys instead of 4 or 5.
What I will say though, I don't think having 6 players on your roster has to be a detriment. I mean, when Miami went after LeBron and Chris Bosh, they only had like 2 players on the roster. So I think and they had the cap.
One of them was Dwayne Wade. As far as third round.
But this is what I'm trying to say. The Knicks are not an attractive destination, and Randall, I don't see people running to play with Randall. I think his performance in the playoffs may have hurt him. Let me just get to the super chat, and then we can get back to what you're saying. 1975 Jamrock, appreciate you. If Bulls make the playoff and New York don't, hot seat. For who? For Tibbs? For Leon Rose? And there's one more. Evergreen. Appreciate you, Evergreen. Please get me in this chat so I could talk some sense into Josh. He's being a foolio,
Oh, boy.
as he usually does in the off
Let
season.
me get him up. I'll get him in here. Oh,
Hey.
man.
When you were gonna, so I guess that was your point. They saw Randall play, and they weren't feeling it, and so now they're saying, "I need to see."
Prove it again. Because those were the two vital guys that I mean, at least I think it would have been more feasible if certain guys were already under contract, not free agents. Maybe a Burke who did play, if you at the very least decent in the playoffs. D Rose, if he was on the roster, not a free agent who did ball out in the playoffs. Now they have something to visualize. All right. I seen Rose ball out. I'll go play with Rose. You know what I mean? I seen Julius ball out. I'll go play with Julius. But Julius flamed out. RJ didn't play much better. I think players got to see these two guys perform in the playoffs for them to say, all right, yeah, I'll come add my
Who
talent.
did KD and Kyrie see in Brooklyn?
Kyrie and KD decided to go together. That's a totally different situation.
But what I'm trying to say, that situation was open for the Knicks too, with all of their cap space. For somebody to say, "Listen, I'm going to New York. Do you want to go with me?" That's the same thing Kawhi did when he called up Paul George.
Yeah, but that wasn't about Brooklyn as a team. That wasn't about the Clippers as a team. It was about them coming together, and we're gonna bring guys with us along the way. That's totally different than. Like, it wasn't like the Nets built that team. The Nets had a team built. They said, you know what? I don't care what it takes. Kind of like what Josh wants to do. I'm
gonna go. But what I'm saying is that opportunity was there for the Knicks if players wanted to come.
Okay, let me just say something real quick. So we spoke about Randall, and a lot of people, or you guys don't feel like Randall was attractive enough for people to get there, to come to New York. So if that's the case, what exactly are the Knicks building? What do we have?
He's gonna have to perform in the playoffs. So
does it make sense when I say that the Knicks, the way they performed in the playoffs, was a failure?
In the playoffs, yeah, I agree. In the playoffs, that was a failure. In the playoffs,
that's all I gotta say.
Our two guys needed to play better. We could have still lost 4 out of 5 games, but our two guys needed to play better for it to be a more attractive destination.
And those two guys was Randall and Tibbs. But L Marshall, shout out to you for the super chat. Rose that vet. The team needed to start or sixth man if he breaks down. We'll get our point guard soon. No need to be desperate. Build respect first.
And the Nets did it 2 years in a row prior to getting KD and Kyrie.
We talked earlier. We talked about Rose and whether or not Rose could be a starter, you know, and legitimately run the team and stay healthy. He can run the team, but stay healthy. Looking at McBride, looking at Emmanuel quickly, do you see either one of those guys really being it? What if say McBride can? Okay, Derrick Rose is a starter, but he still only plays 25 minutes. Right? And McBride is able to, you know, give you, you know, what is 48 minutes in the game, give you 20, 23 minutes. Right? I mean, would you feel better, you know, if we look in the summer league and we say, you know what, this guy McBride can probably give you good 23 minutes and take that load off of Derrick Rose. Would you be a little bit more satisfied, Steph?
A little bit, but you know, still summer league in the regular season is a little different. But yeah, I think if he balled out in summer league, and you know, we went into the season with him, you know, as the backup, you know, I haven't seen him play that well. I would feel a little more comfortable. But I think Luka's going to be in summer league as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Luka at least has international. So I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, man. I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say, man, because I obviously wanted more. Really, with this team, all I want with this team, I'd be happy with just knowing that we have a starting point guard with this team. And I'd be happy with this team just knowing that we had a starting point guard.
Right.
I do think it changes for me if we trade and get Colin Sexton. I do think it changes.
Right.
He may not be the floor general that Chris Paul and Kyle Lowry is, but I think it changes for me.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I want Colin Sexton, but I don't even think it has to be him, because if I don't know if Josh agrees, but I think Queen, you agree, Sim, you agree, Fournier is a upgrade over Bullock. So in that aspect, all we really need right now is an upgrade over Elfrid Payton. Like we can get a guy in that everybody doesn't necessarily believes is a starting caliber point guard, but we'll probably agree that he's better than Elfrid Payton.
Oh, that's Derrick Rose right now, though.
I'm saying, in addition, we don't necessarily want Rose starting, or we don't want to have to rely on him to play starters minutes. So I'm like, right now, that's the only thing we're missing from like a consensus that we upgraded the team. I think we technically we have, but we're moving Rose. We're putting more responsibility on Rose, which I think is dangerous. We do need somebody that's going to be able to fill a role, whether it's starter or just starter minutes, so that Rose is not subjected to 35 minutes a night. Because he did it for us down the stretch, and he killed us. You know what I mean? Like, he still performed, but we needed more.
Yeah. Steph, do you
without
want
a
me to
point guard, I'm not sure if we're better. Let me just read two more super chats. 1975 Jamrock, appreciate you. Stephen A said, guys don't want to play with Randall. Whatever that's worth. Cash, appreciate you. We need a trade like when we got Melo. We need to do a trade like when we got Melo back then. For who? I mean, that's the question. That's the question. For who? Let Josh tell it. Or we got a pick on every team, and the Knicks are just not going after it.
Right. Do you want me to let these guys in? Nate is in the chat, and Evergreen. You want me to let him in?
Yeah, that's fine. Let him in.
All right. And let these guys in here. See what they're talking about.
Bring it on, Evergreen. I'm ready for you. Bring it on.
I did, Steph. I did want to ask you a question.
Yes.
I think we talked about it earlier. Do you think that the Knicks have given themselves a 3-year window?
I think so, but I think they have. I think they've given themselves a 3-year window that we can't go with these 1+1 contracts. So in this 3 years, we have to put together a team that can really compete. And if we don't, these guys are still under contract. Like if we strike out in trades or whatever, we still got guys under contract. So we don't have to go through this every offseason trying to find players to complete our roster. Right? I do think the Knicks are looking to do big things. I don't think they're looking to just play this team out for 3 years, but I think it's like a safety net. If we're not able to do something, at least these guys are under contract and we don't have to run around in free agency trying to sign someone.
Yeah. Oh, we lost your sound a little bit, Steph. We lost your sound a little bit.
Okay. Welcome, Nate and Evergreen. I'm going to read one more super chat before I ask you guys what your opinions are. L. Marshall, appreciate you. McBride is that upgrade to Peyton. LOL. Yeah, I mean, even though he's a rookie, I actually think he is. But we shall see. Evergreen, your thoughts on what the Knicks have done or not done so far?
So just to clarify, because I just got out of school and I'm listening to, Uncle Fulio over here losing his mind. Right? He's right now. He sounds like that old man that's been sitting on his porch all year. Right? And finally, as soon as some grass grow, he wants to lose his mind when people get too close to it. Right? So just from my understanding, we re-signed Derrick Rose, we re-signed Evan Fournier. Those are the only two we did, right?
Noel and Burke.
Noel and Burke are back. Okay, great. Now, I personally, what was the money that we signed for Noel and Burke?
3 for 30. Yeah, 10 per. About 10 per.
10 per. Okay, so I was cool with that. And I'm happy that they were able to sign a small contract like that, just because I was under the impression that they could have made double the money that they made anywhere else. Like I would think that the market would have dictated for them to make about 14 to 15 mil either a piece on any team in the league, especially with, Nerlens Noel and the interest that the Sixers had in him and the interest that Boston had in him. Right. So I thought that he would have been able to make some money anywhere else. So the fact that he signed for 10 mil and we were able to maintain him and drop Norvell Pell at the same time, I'm all about it. Now, I'm happy about the Derrick Rose re-signing because, he was clearly, like you guys mentioned earlier, he was clearly the X factor. This Evan Fournier deal, I don't like it. So that's where Josh and I agree, right? I'm not a fan of the Evan Fournier deal. I think he's soft, honestly. Just that's just me. I think he's soft in a lot of different categories. However,
he wasn't soft. He wasn't soft when he put it to the USA team.
Listen, man, I got you. I'm here. We understand. You know what I mean? Is the USA the game he had in the USA team? Is that what's making a deciding factor? Because
Right.
if that's the case, then Frank Ntilikina should have been the starting point guard last year.
Hell no, he ain't never did that. I like Frank, but come on, Evan Green, he never did that.
I'm just saying. Like, my point is a good performance like that, like that's all fine and dandy, but I don't know if that's enough. Is he going to come on this team and start?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think he's worth what he's got. 18 million. I don't think he's worth 18 million.
19.5.
Right? Is that what he got? Okay.
Josh is saying 20.
Randall's money.
Well, Randall is underpaid. Right.
Randall's underpaid, but is Evan Fournier's production last season between the two teams he was on, is that anywhere near the production that Julius Randle gave you in New Orleans the season before we signed him?
He averaged 18 points. He shot about over 40% from the 3-point line or close to it. I have his splits. I don't have the total.
Okay. Listen, I'm just saying Orlando moved him for a reason and Boston didn't re-sign him for a reason. And everybody was clamoring and losing their mind.
Well, Boston didn't re-sign him because they didn't want to meet his asking price, not because they didn't want him. They wanted him.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Orlando didn't want him, so they moved him. Boston took him and did nothing with him. Right. So a lot of people were like, there's people in Boston that didn't even know who the hell Evan Fournier was. Who's this guy we're getting from Orlando? Oh, he's a shooter? Great. What did he do? Right? So I agree with Josh there. Right? However, where I don't agree with Josh is that the moves that he's talking about making, like, there aren't any moves. There haven't been any moves. There hasn't been any moves for some time now. Even if you look at last season, all the moves that we could have possibly made that our team with the players that our team have, they have zero stock and zero value. So it causes for another fleece. We probably would have got fleeced if we wanted to trade for DeMar DeRozan last season. That's how bad our team looked on paper, with the exception of the Julius Randle that we wasn't getting rid of. Obviously, we got Derrick Rose before the trade deadline ended. But who else on the team was valuable enough to package and ship somewhere? We didn't have anything. Who the hell are we gonna go get?
Evan Fournier. You know how much it cost Boston to get Evan Fournier at the trade deadline?
Yes. Yeah.
How much?
It cost them 2 second-round draft picks, right?
Exactly.
Which is 2 assets, right? Because if you notice, did we not use 2 second-round draft picks this season? Right? We used them. Right now, based off of, even in agreement to what Sim said, we didn't lose any assets. So you mean to tell me you were going to use those 2 second-round draft picks that eventually turned into Grimes, right? And who's the other
It
guy?
didn't have to be from this year, Evergreen. It could have been from 2 years down the line.
But the point is that the money from free agency is not the big asset. It's used for free agency. When you're making a trade, you're not using money. You're using players, which is an asset, and you're using draft picks, which is an asset.
You are using your money, using your cap space as leverage. If you're one of the few teams that can take on a big contract, that's leverage. So you are using money that you have.
No. You're misinterpreting what I'm saying. I'm saying when you go into an open market in free agency, you sign those players without losing the asset of draft picks.
Correct.
When there's a play on a free agency, you're not getting rid of a draft pick to sign them. You're just using the money that you already had.
Okay, that's correct.
When you're looking to make a trade, you have to make that money match, as well as find.
You don't have to make the money match. You don't have to make the money match.
Fair enough.
Absorbing it is making it match.
Absorbing the money is making it match, but nobody's going to say, "Hey, I'm just going to give you Evan Fournier and you can absorb his contract." No, they're going to say, "Give me something in return." It's a reciprocal agreement. Right. It's something.
So in other words, we got him without giving up assets.
Right. So all we did was wait. Granted, I didn't want the guy in the first place, but if we would have got him last year and we traded for him, I'd have been pissed because we lost unnecessary assets for a guy that we could have got this year by simply giving him some money. Do I think he's overpaid right now? Absolutely. But
so do you think we gave up unnecessary assets for Derrick Rose since we signed him as a free agent now?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because Derrick Rose.
It's the same thing, though.
No, because the difference is because the history is in the books. Derrick Rose got us to the playoffs. Evan Fournier didn't do a damn thing in the playoffs.
Evan Fournier could have got us further than where we were. He didn't do anything for Boston. So you just.
So that means he's not going to do anything for us now. I don't think so. I mean I don't want the guy. So you're asking the wrong guy because I'm on the bias side. I don't want the guy. I think he's trash. I don't like him. Right. So if you want to ask an unbiased question, the unbiased question was what you just presented at first, which is, is Derrick Rose, was he going to get us further than Evan Fournier? Absolutely. The proof is in the pudding.
I did not say that. You just put those words in my mouth. I did not say that.
What was your question? Just to clarify.
You said that we had if we would have traded for Evan Fournier, we would have gave up assets. When you got him right now for nothing, right? We could spend on free agency. So do you feel the same way about Derrick Rose? Because he was going to be a free agent. We knew that when we made the trade for him, we gave up assets for him, and now we got him again as a free agent.
What did we give up for Derrick Rose?
We gave up Dennis Smith Jr. and a second-round pick. Those are assets. Dennis Smith Jr. was an asset that was tradable that we can be able to move.
Absolutely. Now the question is, I'm giving up an asset for Derrick Rose because Derrick Rose has history with Tom Thibodeau, so there's value there. Right, I'm not giving up any assets for Evan Fournier. I'm sorry, it's not happening. I'm not giving up a damn thing for Evan Fournier. Now, prove me wrong. I'm a Knicks fan. Prove me wrong, right? Prove me wrong, Evan Fournier. I think you suck. I don't want you. I don't want you here, right? But prove me wrong, and I will be the one that's cheering.
I don't think he sucks. I don't think he sucks. I just don't like. To me, I don't like the length of the contract. That's just me. I don't like the length of the contract, and it goes against what the Knicks. What it seems that the Knicks are trying to do, which is save cap space for this big free agent class. Signing him for that deal with that length goes against that logic.
It was 3 years.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. That's 20 years. $20 million in cap space that cuts in to whatever you were trying to do 2 seasons from now.
I agree wholeheartedly.
That's what I'm saying.
We're on the same page. We're on the absolute same page. Evan Fournier hopefully will be a guy that builds up some value so that you can flip him for one of these trades that you're talking about.
Right.
That's what I've been saying.
That's the best way you can do it. Just the same way we did Marcus Morris. Not saying that Evan Fournier is going to give you Marcus Morris percentages at 47% before the trade deadline. I'm just saying that
he shot 46% in Boston before the end of the season. I got a question for you, Evergreen, but let me read this super chat. Shout out to El Marshall. Fournier is definitely a tradable asset and there's a money side. I guess he meant at the trade deadline. All right, did I miss? Okay. I hope I say the name right. Yohanan Saman. Thank you for the super chat. Last year, this time, we were more pessimistic than we are this year. And look what Tibbs and staff accomplished. Let's see what happens up to the trade deadline. Let's see what happens. Evergreen, with this roster, given the upgrades that happened in Miami, I think Chicago, in my opinion, Indiana upgraded with just the coaching change. Where do the Knicks finish? Are we still in that second tier, 4 through 6, or are we 7 through 8 or playing team?
Honestly, as much as I would like to answer that question and say yes, based off of what Atlanta did to us, based off of Lowry going to Miami, I'm giving us number 7 seed. That's where I'm sitting at.
So we're
and
in
that
the
number 7 seed means a bump out in the first round, that like we did before.
That number 7 seed means we're in the play-in tournament.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Miami made a splash. We got swept by Miami damn near. I'm pretty sure we got swept last season by Miami, right? Like they won all 3 games,
so.
Right? And then they just upgraded with adding Kyle Lowry there. I think we lose that battle. The season might have looked a little bit different in the playoffs if we had Mitchell Robinson, against Atlanta. But again, we clearly lost that battle, horribly lost that battle. So, that puts us in the spot that Miami was very easily. I'm not too worried about, you said Indiana, I'm not too worried about them. And I'm honestly not worried about Chicago either. So I'm giving us 6 or 7. I'm giving us 6 or 7.
Sherwin M, shout out, said this team will not make the playoffs. Wow.
What will be the backlash if the Knicks don't make the playoffs? What do you think the backlash should be?
Don't re-sign Randall. The Randall slander's coming back. Oh, we can't re-sign him. That's gonna be number 1. And I mean, I don't know. We've seen it all before, so it could get real ugly.
Honestly,
but I think number 1 thing is everybody's gonna say is we can't bring Randall back. He's not the guy. He's not a piece. He's not. Let him get money somewhere else and blah 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 blah.
So
and Dolan might overreact. Tibbs might be gone.
And that's
with the Rangers. I was gonna say. It's like he did with the Rangers.
I was gonna say that. I mean, we know Tibbs is probably one of the most consistent system coaches that the league has seen in the last 25 years. Like, he runs the same thing over and over. There's no switching up. It's all defense. So because of the chemistry, we can expect this team, and the roster, the way they reconstructed it, again, it's damn near the same team again with a few pieces added. We can expect the same exact system to be ran next season. Oh. I don't really expect too much changes. The biggest thing in the playoffs was, Randall didn't do what he was supposed to do. Everyone didn't perform the way they should have, but there should have been some type of basketball adjustment, some type of scheme adjustment, and it wasn't there. So if we don't make the playoffs next year, we know more than likely it had everything to do with us not changing what we're doing on the offensive end.
I disagree.
Yeah, we didn't change the roster too much either.
I disagree.
We didn't change the roster too much, so we know what everybody is capable of.
But I disagree too.
We made a big change, and the biggest reason we didn't perform in the playoffs, or the biggest thing that was lacking in the playoffs, was players able to create their own shot, and that's one thing Fournier can do. Randall got locked down. RJ is good, but creating his own shot, he's not there yet. He's much better playing within the system. Burks can do it, and he probably had a bit of a shining moment. Rose can do it. Everybody else, Quickly can do it, and he had a few moments. But by the time Quickly was in any game, we were down. So his leash was shortened. You know what I mean?
So outside of the leash, I mean, the only difference that you've added to the team is Evan Fournier. That's the guy that's going to get us over the hump.
But see, I think Evan Fournier, his game is a lot different than Reggie Bullock's. Reggie Bullock is bottom line. I'm going to catch it and I'm going to shoot it. I'll hand it off to I'll hand it off to Julius Randle. I'll give it to Julius Randle. He'll hand it off to me. I'll take 2 dribbles and I'll pull up at the free throw line. There's not much more to it than that. Evan Fournier adds a very different dimension, or a different dimension than Reggie Bullock does, because he can create off the dribble.
So again, this
Create for others.
question: does Evan Fournier? This is why I didn't want him here. But does Evan Fournier get us over the hump that Reggie Bullock couldn't provide? I.e., we get out of the first round. If we had the same exact team as constructed, because it's damn near the same thing, right? We know that with the fact that they brought back Nerlens, Noel, and Alec Burks, we know that Grimes' minutes is going to be short, right? We know that. So that means the only difference on this team, really, in the starting lineup, is Evan Fournier. If we had this same exact team as constructed now, previous season with Evan Fournier on the team, do we still get past Atlanta?
I don't know if we beat them, but we win more than one game. It becomes more competitive games.
I don't know.
We didn't have anybody who could create. We rode Rose to the tires fell off. He's the only guy that literally produced every game. Their game plan was lock down Randle because he's creating for everyone other than Rose. Once they did that, nobody else could score. Fournier's going to change that. He can score for himself. He can help facilitate for others. He can open the floor for others. He gets to the rim. He shoots the ball well.
The only thing,
I'm not mad at that signing at all.
I'm pissed at that signing. The only thing Atlanta did, the only thing they did was throw a double and keep Clint Capella in the paint and shade the left-hand side. That's it. That's the reason Julius Randle couldn't score, and that's the same exact reason that RJ Barrett couldn't score, because they're both left-handed. That's all they did. It's a simple strategy. Evan Fournier coming in here does not change that difference. He does not make a big difference in that same exact scenario.
I think it does. I don't think they could key on Randall. I think their whole strategy would have had to be different. But let me read this super chat. Shout out to JT Sports Talk. Appreciate you. Over 1K in the chat. Queen's Court. Great job. Appreciate you. The onus is easy to identify. It's time for the core group to take the next step. RJ, it's time. Hashtag get better.
I agree.
And that's something that I know a lot of us aren't talking about. What if RJ does take that next step and becomes that dude? To me, I just don't see it, but I think it's definitely a possibility. And if the Knicks have that, then I would say we're actually building something, and we have that guy that's going to be our next star. You know what I'm saying? But if we don't see that in Randall right now, I just don't really understand what exactly we built last season, to be honest. If we don't see that in Randall right now,
so
what do we have?
You won't know what we built last season until we play again this season, because this is actually how you build upon your team. They had a good season last year. They brought back some players, that they had last year. They added another piece in. I'm hoping that they're going to add a point guard somehow, some way, and then we'll see what they do next season. Like, that is how you build, and that's a slow build.
So, Sim, I'm not as dumb as this sounds, because this is going to sound like blasphemy to everybody. I'm not too worried about the point guard position. I'm not worried about it. I'll give you. Honestly, I'm not worried about it at this moment in time, just because we have so many options, youthful options right now. The option in Derrick Rose to give you 15, maybe 20 a game. The option and hopefully the development of Quickly, which we can't bank on that. I get it, but we just grafted
McBride.
We can't bank on that either.
Like, you know what I mean? We just grafted McBride, and a lot of people are upset when I talk about Luka Vildoza, but we have 3 options there, And I'm sorry, but I like those three options and the possibility of development as opposed to going into free agency and getting, what's left out of Dennis Schroeder or
What's left out of Dennis Schroeder? He's 28 years old.
Exactly. See what I'm saying? This is what I'm talking about right here. This is exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there.
You can't afford Dennis Schroeder.
Dennis
point,
Schroeder.
yeah.
Listen, if we could have got Dennis Schroeder 2 seasons ago when I wanted him, I was all about it, right? But what he did was he somehow built up his value. I don't see how he did it in LA.
Can I jump in and tell you? Can I jump in and tell you how he built up his value?
Please.
I'm gonna tell you how right now he built up his value. Just give me 1 second and let me pull this up here. I'm gonna tell you exactly how and why he built up his value. All right, he was a rookie in 2013, 2014.
Yep.
In the playoffs with the Hawks, not a lot of minutes. 2014, 2015, second year in the league, played 18 minutes a game in the playoffs, averaged 9 points and 4 assists in the playoffs. 2015-16 with the Atlanta Hawks, played 19 minutes a game in the playoffs. He averaged 11.7 points and 3.6 assists. 2016 and 17 with the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs. He averaged 24.7 points per game and 7.7 assists. 2018 and 19, he missed a year with the Hawks. 2018 and 19 with OKC in the playoffs. He averaged 14 points a game, 3.4 assists. 2019 and 20 in the playoffs. Averaged 17 points a game, 3.6 assists. 2020, 2021 in the playoffs. He averaged 14 points and 2.8 assists. Tell me one player on the New York Knicks roster that's played that many playoff games.
No, I got you. Playing playoff games is good. That's a great great
average
testament
14
to
and
the
3
team.
in a bad year.
That's a great testament to the team, right? Great testament to what was organized and all of those teams.
Hold on, he wasn't part of those teams, though?
Hypocrisy.
Hold on,
Hypocrisy.
he played 35 in Atlanta, 16. I mean, starting in his second year, he played 18 minutes a game in the playoffs, 19 minutes a game, 35, 30, 32 minutes a game.
I'm saying getting to the playoffs and doing what he did in the playoffs is a great testament to what he's doing. You think that rate's $120 million?
All I'm saying is you're asking
Come on,
why is
Sam, don't do me like that.
what I'm saying is you're asking how he raised his value, and I'm telling you how he raised his value.
So what did he do in the playoffs with LA?
14 and 3.
He averaged 14 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds.
So 14 and 3 last season. That's enough. That amount of production is enough to give him $120 million.
No, who says he's getting $120 million?
That's what he's asking for.
Right,
But that
that's
doesn't
what
mean he's
asking
gonna get
for, but
it.
that's negotiation tactics.
Right. Cool. Got it. So what are you giving Dennis Schroeder to play on this team?
Nothing now because we don't have anything left.
None.
No,
I'll tell you what.
So
I'll tell you what. I'd rather pay him $20 million a year than Evan Fournier.
that's a tough rather. I don't want either one of them.
Fournier can shoot, man.
That's right.
I'm
He's
not
a bucket. He's a bucket getter, guys. You gotta understand that. That's why we got him. He's a bucket
If
getter.
we had the money right now, I would pay Dennis Schroeder $15 million a year.
$15 million.
Yep. For a 3-year deal, $15 million, something like that. I'd pay him $15 million.
At the Caruso.
Yeah, I would pay him.
Then that's crazy.
Caruso.
Caruso got that. That's wild. That's wild.
Before we get to Nate, let me just read the super chat. Will H official, appreciate you. Guys, you're forgetting injuries and how we have 2 guys in RJ and Randall that are durable. Hawks will have injuries and Hawks 5th seed. I see the Knicks. I mean, how do we know the Hawks are gonna have injuries? But
Hawks are super deep.
if the Hawks is the 5th seed, I don't know what the Knicks are.
I mean, I guess they're assuming that Miami is going to leapfrog some people with the addition of Kyle Lowry, right? Leapfrog some people. So if they're leapfrogging us, maybe they're the 4th seed, Atlanta the 5th seed, and then does that put us at the 6th seed? We'll see.
Saying Bucks, Nets, I'm only giving Bucks honorary because they the champions. Bucks next, Sixers, Miami, Atlanta, and then a fight with us.
Between who?
The Bulls, I guess.
The Bulls.
Maybe
Bulls,
I'm not-
Indiana,
I don't
Washington,
have no faith. I don't have
Charlotte.
no faith in the Bulls.
Charlotte.
Charlotte. I don't have any faith in the Bulls. I mean, we thought that
They got 2 All-Stars, man. What are you talking about?
yeah, and they got that All-Star last season. What'd they do with one of them?
And they got Ball.
And they got Ball, exactly.
Okay, I got you. I don't have no faith in Chicago.
And we don't have a point guard right now.
I
And they
wanted
might get DeRozan too.
Would have been better on this team, but I don't have faith in Chicago like that. Based off of what they did, everybody thought that them getting Vucevic was gonna make a big difference for them, and they took a dump. Right,
Well,
they, took a
Ball
dump
does.
when they needed it most.
Let
So-
Nate talk about what he thinks about the Knicks move so far.
Oh boy.
Oh man, it's been fun. I've been reading a lot of comments, a lot of negativity. Man, it's Knicks fans that we're crazy. I mean, we're up and down like a roller coaster. I mean, the one good thing I can say that came out of these signings is that the Knicks actually have a complete team more so now, because these guys are signed for 3 years, so they're going to be on the roster at least for 3 years. And then you have your young guys who are going to be on the roster for at least, another 2 or 3 years on their deals. So the Knicks have more of an attractive situation going forward. I will say that. I think that Seth made a good point earlier. When you got 6 players on the team, nobody's going to want to come play with you, especially when you don't have a superstar. And we don't have a superstar. Randall's a good player. He's an all-star, but he's not a star or superstar, in my opinion. And I just don't think that it's an attractive destination right now. Even though we did hear earlier in the season, the Knicks are going to be one of the top preferred destinations for players. I think that was all hogwash. I think at the end of the day, the Knicks image is still bad, whether it's Dolan, whether it's the fact the Knicks are cheap, which I think that's the big one that's going around, is that the Knicks are not going to spend money, and players know that. The NBA knows that, word gets around and through the back channels, and I think the players are like, well, I'm not going to go play there. They're not going to pay me. I'm going to go somewhere else where I'm going to get paid. And they know the Knicks aren't going to open the pocketbooks, which is fine. I mean, I understand you want to maintain cap flexibility, totally understandable. I agree with Josh that, you got to take swings. I mean, the best teams take swings. And the Knicks right now are just looking to get on base. They're not really trying to take a swing. They want to just maintain what they can right now. I'm a little disappointed that if they don't make a trade for a big fish, they probably are going to lose out on the Levine and Beal in next summer's draft class. I'm sorry, free agent class.
I think they already have.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
Fournier's money.
They
really. Yeah. So that's pretty much out. So I don't know where they're looking down the line. Hopefully they're hoping Lillard's going to make a trade demand, or the Sexton deal if possible, or maybe the next 2 or 3 years. I don't know what the free agent classes are going to look like then. But I just, as a Knicks fan, I just get frustrated because we have a lot of money, and every time we get a lot of money, Knicks fans get excited because we're going to sign this player and that player, and we don't. We just resign the players we have, and maybe we make one big splash, which I'm not upset about the Fournier pick. He's a bucket getter. He's a guy who's been torching USA in basketball this Olympics. Watch it. They'll do it again probably if they get to the championship. So we need a bucket getter. We need a guy who can score, and that's exactly what he is. He's a scorer. He's a bona fide guy that can get scores at all 3 levels. So I'm not upset about the pick. I just, I didn't expect the Knicks to make a big splash. I just knew that we were going to strike out again, and again, it comes back to the fact that we're not a consistent team in winning. We have an owner who has a lot of negativity behind him. And the fact is that we don't have a good roster. Outside of Barrett and Randall, we have a bunch of journeymen and a lot of young dudes. Who's going to want to play for a team like that? Ball went to go play with the Bulls because Levine's an all-star, and, Vucevic is an all-star, and, they've got some young players like a Kobe White, and they've got some other dudes. And he's like, hey, I can go rock with that team. The Knicks have R.J. Barrett and Randall.
Or-
I don't know about that.
Or
And so
can I add an or in there? Or the
Sure.
Chicago Bulls were the only team willing to give him $22 million a year.
Right.
What if that's the case?
again, it comes back to the Knicks. It comes back to the Knicks being cheap.
Is that
The
cheap
Knicks are-
or is
the Knicks
that
are gonna-
is that cheap or is that being frugal with your money? Is that being smart with your money? And
Well, I think
saying,
frugal is
we don't think this guy. I disagree. If you don't think somebody is worth it, then you say I'm not going to put my money there because I don't want to commit $22 million to this guy, and I don't think he's worth the $22 million. People can
me
argue
ask
whether
you
or
this
not
question.
Evan Fournier is. Obviously the Knicks think that he is.
That's the only question I have with this, Sam. Like, if you're not going to pay someone else $22 million, and yet you're going to pay Evan Fournier, to me, if the Knicks see it that way, fine. That's the way they see it. But
and also too is we needed a point guard. So I could agree with you on that, Josh, because we would have probably been okay with spending $22 million on Ball because we need a point guard. God knows we need one. And if we don't get Evan Fournier, oh well, we go find somebody else for a cheaper deal that can make some buckets. But we need a point guard. We've been clamoring that up and down and, banging that drum till it's no longer there. And we didn't do it. Once again, we signed our players, the same players we had. We got Evan Fournier. We're hoping that's going to be the best getter that we need. And then we got Derrick Rose back, which I personally think that, that money you give Derrick Rose, I just don't see how you can make him your starting point guard. I know it's not a lot of money, but who else are they trying to get?
I guess
unless it's going to be a trade.
I guess we'll find out. It's all speculative about who starts. I'm sure that'll come completely in training camp. I'm not a huge proponent of the guy that makes the most money and the guy that makes more money plays over the guy that makes less money. Like I'm more along the lines of the lineup situation and the philosophy of basketball, right? I would have loved to have Lonzo Ball here. Like I wanted him as well. I for damn sure wasn't giving him $22 million, right? I think, and you know what? I see myself in the angry Knicks fan. You know what I mean? Like, I think my issue is that I never get the player in free agency that I want, and I'll be the first to admit that. But I'm not going to lose my mind about the impossible or what's unseen. Like the fact that you mentioned, we get a swing and a miss. When it comes to trades, it's not there's not a swing and a miss. It's that the other team isn't pitching the ball to us. They don't want to trade with us. Right. They don't see any assets that we have that are available to make a big difference. So there's no swing and a miss there if the other team is not pitching. And even if we say, hey, pitch the ball to us, we're looking at this, they don't have to pitch the ball to us, right? And that's the situation that we've been in for the last 10 years or so. It's because teams see that the Knicks suck, right?
So it's everybody against the Knicks, right?
Say again?
It's everybody against the Knicks, right?
Not necessarily
No. I'm not saying it's everybody. I'm not saying it's everybody against the Knicks. But what I am saying is that the team that we've had, with the exception of last year, the team that we had was bad. And when players look and they see the assets that we have, they see the players that we have, they don't necessarily want to trade with us. So that it's a reciprocal thing. It's not like this isn't 2K where you can just, plug in your buttons on one side and make some crazy trade and it goes through. And you're like, oh yeah, look at that, it went through. Like you have on the other end businessmen that are thinking the same way that you are as a business. Right. Obviously.
So then why do we value our own draft picks then? Why do we value our own draft assets if no other team will?
I'm not sure how why that is relevant.
Because you said that other teams don't want to pitch the ball to us because they don't find that our assets are valuable. So why do we value our own assets if other teams don't?
You could do that. I value my couch. You may not value my couch. It's mine. Right. Right. Let me read the super chat real quick. The Gifted Truth Podcast, appreciate you. And this is significant. It was reported we can sign Rose to that contract with his bird rights. We can sign Rose last and still spend. We still have money.
There we go.
I hope that's true. We still working.
It's absolutely true.
And there was one more super chat. L Marshall, appreciate you. I think this is about the second or third super chat. Appreciate you. Who y'all rather over Evan that fits the system that is not a star? I want to say Powell, but I heard he just signed a $90 million contract. Was that the
Gary
return
Trent?
to Portland? Wow.
For the same money?
See,
It's 90 million.
For the same money though?
Yeah,
What do you mean the
get?
same money?
Josh, you said Gary Trent. You would have gave him that money?
20 mil.
18.5 or 19.5?
Something close to it though. Yeah.
Yeah, I concur with you.
I like Derrick Trent a lot.
See, I come on the show, Josh calms down a little bit. Right? I could come to that. I would give him like 17, 18. I'm cool with that.
He's nice.
But he resigned too, didn't he?
Nice.
He did.
I think a player that is a Tibbs type of guy. Like honestly, like a lot of people don't like it because he's not consistent with shooting. But I wanted Kelly Oubre. That's the guy that I wanted.
For 20 mil?
He's still out there.
No, not for 20 mil. Not for 20 mil. Definitely not for 20 mil. But I would rather have him on the team than Evan Fournier.
Nah.
But see, listen. I like Kelly Oubre. I don't think he
can't shoot,
fits what the Knicks need offensively. He'd be another guy that can't shoot the ball. He can create off the dribble and he can get to the cup, but he can't shoot the ball. We need flamethrowers.
I
need a
listen.
couple
I like what he
flamethrowers.
brings on the floor on the defensive end. You know, and
But we had that last year and we couldn't score. That was part of the problem.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm being completely biased when it comes to this. At least I'm honest about it. I'm being completely biased with it. Like,
Can we
I don't want
ask what you don't like about Fournier?
his defense sucks. I don't like his defense. He's soft to me. He's soft.
His
let me tell
defense,
you-
his off-ball defense, because he averaged a steal and a half a game. And
Is that a steal and a half? Is that a steal and a half man up, or is that a steal and a half of him?
Yes, on-ball defense, not just playing passing lanes. On-ball defense, guarding.
I got to read that stat.
This is what DJ31 had to say about Fournier. Appreciate the super chat. Have some respect for Team USA killer Fournier. He also killed us for 5 years with Orlando. He did. Trade the Rooks, Knox, Obi, IQ for DeJounte Murray, and we set. I like DeJounte. I mean,
again, Steph, like this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Like the fans are coming with these 2K trades, right? Like it's got to be a reciprocal thing, right? This is why I don't put any value into trades because it's all hypothetical bullcrap. All of it, no matter what trade you propose, it's hypothetical bullcrap. At least in the free agency, you can gauge the market and see exactly what other teams are willing to do, right? At least you have a measurement of something to go with. But the measurement is not the 2K X and Y buttons. I'm sorry, like that doesn't get it done. That's all like computerized. Like I don't know who put that type of message in y'all's heads that getting rid of these 3 players or these 4 players is going to get you this, or getting rid of these combination of 2 players and 3 draft picks is going to get like that's not how this works. Like this is real life. This is business, right?
Gotcha.
So at least in the free agent market and even on the buyout market, which I'm a huge proponent of, when you look at the players and you see what other teams are willing to pay, you can say, do I see value in that guy and what he brings in production on the floor? Okay, am I willing to pay what the market dictates for the guy? Because a lot of times the teams that are also in bidding with you, they're the ones that are dictating the market. They just going based off the stats and what they seen from last season. But if the Lakers said that they weren't going to give Evan Fournier $15 million, then that's the starting price right there.
right.
So at least,
So
Go ahead.
given what the Knicks have done so far, what's left to do? Well, point guard, right? That's an easy question. Do you think 15 million? We're gonna take the money we used to sign Rose, which was 13 whatever million plus a year, and that's we're gonna sign him with the bird right. So that leaves us with about 13 million. Do you think that's gonna be enough to get a quality starting point guard?
No, that money is going to sit just like the other money did last season before we got Luka. That money is going to sit, and that's going to be buyout market money. That's going to
What do
be
you think, Sam?
I don't think
that
so.
13 million is going to be bought. They're going to run it with this team, and that money is going to be. Who else is there? What are we going to do? Lou Williams. What are we going to do? We can't pay Schroeder right now.
There's okay. There's Dennis Schroeder out there. I don't think he's not getting $120 million a year.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? He's gonna have to settle down with something. You have Reggie Jackson is still out there.
Mm-hmm.
He's not getting 120.
I like that.
I think Reggie Jackson is probably going to stay in LA, but he's out there.
Right.
So, he's not going to get $120 million a year. So there's two guys right there that you could possibly sign.
And Spencer Dinwiddie is
Dinwiddie's still out there.
is still out there. Ish Smith.
I don't
might be looking down.
You can keep Ish Smith, but I like the Dinwiddie idea.
Raul Nato, the backup point guard for Washington. I don't know if he's a starter though.
I don't even know who that is, honestly.
Nito.
Yeah, he played pretty. Nito. Yeah, he played pretty well.
Did Taylor Horton get re-signed by the Lakers?
Yes, he did.
Oh, man, he would have been nice to get.
He got re-signed.
He would have been nice to get.
Yeah, and what's his name? Just real quick, Powell got 5 years, $90 million to return to Portland. Blake Griffin, 1 year deal returning to the Nets. And we already talked about Devontae Graham with the 4 year, $47 million sign and trade to New Orleans.
Okay, so I'll say this. I'd give Norman Powell. No, never mind. No, yeah, 90 million, 5 years, 90 million. I'd give Evan Fournier's money to Norman Powell. Quick.
But this is the thing. These players weren't available. They re-signed with their teams.
And that's what I'm trying to portray to the people in the chat. These hypothetical ideas for players that are restricted free agents, or these hypothetical ideas for players that, we want to trade for. It's a reciprocal thing. The player has to want to come here, or the team has to be willing to trade. You can't just offer up these things. Now, if Norman Powell was a restricted free agent, you know what I mean, this season, I'd give him that money that Evan Fournier got. Hell, I'd give him the contract that he has right now with Portland, and maybe $3 million extra. So what I'm saying is like, again, for me, like I said, everybody knows my sentiment. I don't like Evan Fournier. He may change my mind this season, but
I think he will. He's not that bad.
I hope he does. I hope he does. Anybody that plays for this team, I end up growing a love for him. But I'm just here to talk Josh off the ledge, man. And he seems
I think he's off now.
He's
Two more super chats.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, I know.
1975 Jamrock, appreciate you. New York went big fish hunting and caught tilapia bait fish. And Ralph, wait 1 second. Ralph Alexander, trade Knox, Charlotte first protected pick in the second round picks for Sexton. I think the Knicks are still in play for a point guard. I mean,
they're still in play.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're still in play.
I think they're still in play.
But by that logic, why would Cleveland take it? If that's the logic, that guy keep going with
that's evergreen.
You're gonna have to come correct, though. You're gonna have to come correct.
Yeah, I'm giving up 3 picks.
I'll tell you why.
3 picks.
Cleveland's front office is stupid. We know this.
Listen,
They signed.
Colin Sexton is on the move. We know that. They just got Ricky Rubio in a trade. They got Darius Garland. Colin Sexton's on the move. To where?
Right. And we can look at history. Just we can just look at last season what Cleveland did. They let Andre Drummond just walk.
Well, they tried.
Well, I mean, he went to the buyout market after they made a move for Jared Allen, and they were confused about what they were going to do with God damn it, what's the other big man name? The other big man shooter they had on the team. Jesus Christ, why is his name leaving my head?
Love.
Kevin Love. There you go. And they were confused with what they want to do with him. And they were just like, DeAndre
I don't think they were confused. Nobody was taking those contracts. They tried to sell Drummond, trade Drummond and get some assets. Nobody wanted him.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. They had no business signing him in the first place. When they got him from Detroit, they had no business signing him. They still had Kevin Love on a huge contract. Now you can get another big man.
But they play two separate positions, though.
Yeah, they play two separate positions.
I'm aware of that. But they had Kevin Love, who's making close to $38 million a season, and they're going to sign another big man.
But he plays outside, though.
So the bottom line is he didn't play enough because they were getting ready to let him walk. They got ready to let him walk.
Let me ask you this.
Right. So my point in all of this is I'm simply saying that we know that Cleveland is stupid, and I see a Colin Sexton potential trade being made with that additional $13 million we got. I can see that.
We don't even need that for that.
We don't need it.
You don't need that.
I got you. What I'm saying is just like we could use it, we could absorb the contract, right? The same way we absorb.
He doesn't make enough money.
They're gonna want assets. He only makes $6 million. Yeah. They're gonna want assets.
I'm just laying out the foundation of what we had.
Bad contract, and then give up.
What'd you say, Tony Crow? What'd you say?
I said you could absorb a bad contract if it's around that $13 million, and then trade Knox, which matches up with Sexton, and then make the trade that way.
Who on their roster makes $13 million? The only bad contract in
that I don't know. I was just giving an example.
Yeah.
Larry,
I don't know.
What's Larry Nance sitting there? There you go.
I don't know.
I think he around 15.
Yeah, I don't know. But Steph, I'm gonna roll so I can start getting ready for this last show of the night, the wrap up show. So I'm gonna roll out of here.
Well, we're gonna end as well. Just want to shout out to the chat. Over 1,200 watching. Appreciate you. Active. Yeah, over 12. Yeah, get those likes up. I'll be back next Monday, same time. Appreciate everybody who came on the show as a guest. Josh, Tony, Evergreen, Josh twice because he's so nice. Nate and Sim. And we're gonna roll right over to the to Sim show to wrap this up and talk a little bit more about the draft. So just stay right here. You'll roll right over. I just want to make sure. I don't think I missed any
super chats.
Yeah, I don't think I missed any super chat. Appreciate you guys. Next week, hang in the chat. We're gonna roll over. We're gonna wrap this up on Sim Show. Peace.
Yo, so is Sim jumping on his Zoom over there? I guess he is.